Good afternoon. I will now call to order the November 6, 2025 meeting of the Santa Barbara Local Agency Formation Commission. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aceves?
Here.
Commissioner Guyer?
Here.
Commissioner Hartman?
Here.
Commissioner Kiriako?
Here.
Commissioner Lee? Commissioner Magana? Commissioner Mosby? Commissioner Nelson?
Here.
Commissioner Patino? Commissioner Stark?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Excuse me, did you call my name?
Yes, say here.
I'm sorry, I'm here. Sorry.
Hit the thing till it turns green and say here.
Here.
Usually
Thank
they
you.
give us one staff member.
Thank you.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Magana, Commissioner Mosby, and Commissioner Patino are absent. Oh, and Commissioner Lee.
Actually, we're in Santa Maria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Commissioner Magana and Commissioner Mosby are present here in Santa Maria.
Thank you.
Yeah, we just got audio right now, so we didn't hear any of what was taking place.
Well, we called the roll, and now we're ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. So would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item of business is the approval of minutes from the October 2nd, 2025 meeting. I would ask for a motion.
I'll move
Hartman
approval.
moves, Hartman seconds.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Guyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stark?
Aye.
And Commissioner Mosby.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you. Now is the time for public comment, which is the time for members of the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on items not on the agenda?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak under general public comment.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. The next matter is approval of the consent calendar.
I'll move for
Any
approval.
questions or items pulled that any commissioners wish to be pulled from the consent calendar?
I'll move for approval.
Well, let's ask if there's anybody from the public.
No, there is no public comment on this item.
There being no request from the public, I would call for a motion for the balance of the consent calendar agenda, in fact, for the entire consent calendar agenda.
I'll move for approval.
Hartman seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Guyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stark?
Aye.
And Commissioner Mosby.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That brings us to the next item, which is business item number 1. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 1 is to receive an oral staff report and agendize for December 11th, 2025, consideration of a municipal service review for cities and special districts that approve or that provide healthcare, mosquito vector control, cemetery, housing mediation, broadband, school, and solid waste services.
Thank you. I'd like ask our executive officer to report, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. As you can see, there's a bit of a smile and relief on my face. This is our 5th year of releasing our service review and sphere update, which will wrap up all of the agencies that we intended to provide a year 1 cycle of review. So yay for us, right? This is the date in which we released this document. Will be out for public review for 30 days at a minimum. And then we are requesting ultimately that the commission agendize this for our December 11th meeting. So that's essentially our recommendation. In the recommendation itself, we are recommending that we reaffirm 11 of the agencies, all special districts, their spheres of influence. We think they're adequately placed for where they need to be. There is one future study recommendation for some cemetery districts where we recognize there's some overlap of services. Both agencies serve multiple parcels in an area, and there's one gap area that we had spoken about between a couple of cemetery districts. So we think that could use some further study, and we may, in the future, make some additional recommendations on where the boundary should reside for those. Essentially, all 3 of those cemetery districts still provide a much-needed service. So we're going to recommend that their boundaries stay the same under this service review. And we'll just keep a watch out as we progress, as we get into next year's 5-year cycle, where we pick up, again, these particular 19 agencies that we've been reviewing. In addition to that, vector control and the Lompoc Healthcare District, they're also identified in this report in good shape and providing effective and efficient services. So we're recommending that they maintain their boundaries as well. And then lastly, we're dealing with broadband solid waste services. And under broadband, SBCAG has partnered with a number of the cities in the county. They embarked on a broadband study. And so we've used that study throughout this report to identify where the gaps were at. And ultimately, collectively, they're working together to kind of close those gaps and seek some grant funding through that process. So we've identified that. We still think, as far as those services, they're being addressed in some form or fashion through a collective participation group. On the wastewater side, services, again, are deemed as efficient and effective with available landfill capacity for the landfills that are within the countywide. In this case, the cities in the county, they all collectively work together. They're assigned to a task force on a countywide basis to determine what the plans are for landfill capacity. So all of those issues are being addressed by the agencies that are under this service review. And so we think it doesn't warrant any change to their boundaries. For the most part, transparency and accountability has been made available. Most of the agencies have provided public websites, hosted a lot of information on their public websites. There is an exception. There are a few smaller cemetery districts that do not provide a website. So there is no transparency in that sense. And their funding is limited, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to attain services for a website. So we noted that in our service review, and we'll do our best to continue to work with them, work with special districts to try to make sure that they can update their websites with resources that they can find as a service that LAFCO will continually be monitoring and do our best to try to assist them in meeting the standard of at least providing some transparency. But ultimately, in the end, we're still recommending the sphere of influence to include all of the 11 agencies as a status quo, that there are no additional areas that need to be added for these 11 agencies. And staff would recommend that we schedule consideration of this, again, as I said, for December 11th for a formal hearing and future action of actual adoption of their spheres of influence. Today is a release of the document, allow the public to understand that the document is out, available on our website. The agencies themselves were given an admin draft, so we've worked collaboratively with them developing these chapters, and we feel like we're at a point where they were comfortable with that release as well. And so it's now been released. But if they take a second review and read of it and find further refinements are needed, this is that 30-day period in which comments and edits can be submitted to staff. We'll bring back any proposed changes that may be a result of comments that we've received. So with that, if there are any questions about the document itself, or any of the agencies, we'll be happy to answer any of those.
Thank you. I just, that this is the time to request commissioner questions or comments about this. Any?
Yeah.
Commissioner Guyer has one.
I have one comment about Goleta Cemetery. I, years ago, was a trustee there. One of the most common questions we had, and try to explain to people, is if the easterly boundary approximately is about Lacumba Road. Well, between Lacumba Road and the westerly boundary of Carpinteria Cemetery, taking in almost all of Santa Barbara, there is no public cemetery. And trying to explain that to people sometimes is really difficult. It'd be kind of nice in the summary if they included the fact, just a simple fact, that they don't cover Santa Barbara.
Thank you, Commissioner Guyer, through the chair. We do note that there are a number of private cemetery districts in the appendix. So that's probably where you'll find that there is that space between the eastern side of Goleta Cemetery until you get to Carpinteria.
Commissioner Hartman.
I was just curious about the overlapping cemetery districts. Have we had that in other MSR reviews where we've got overlapping districts?
Yes, we have.
And I guess I wonder how that happens, and then what is the process for getting out of it? Do you play an active role, or is it something you just notify and ask them to get together and propose something, or what's the process?
Yeah, Commissioner Hartman, through the chair. So we notify that in the report. However, LAFCO and the commission itself doesn't have authority to request annexations or detachments. That's not within our authority. So we can't take up that issue directly, but we work with those agencies to try to clarify those roles and responsibilities of their boundaries. Why is that the case? My understanding is that the cemetery districts were formed in the early years and they've never changed. And so they probably always have been overlapping. I know they've been noted in a previous MSR that's been written in the early 2000s. But nobody's ever really taken up any issue to correct or rectify those issues. And for cemetery districts, that may not be as important, given that essentially the way they structure their services is if you're within their boundary, you pay a certain rate and you're allowed to be interned at one of those cemeteries that service you. And most of them all have out-of-area rates in which if somebody coming from out of that boundary wanted to be interned in their cemetery, they offer that service. It's just at a different rate. So I'm not sure that changing the boundary is as important to the cemetery districts. But oftentimes we want to make sure we try to align boundaries and that we don't have overlap. It's one of our policies And so we certainly note it in our report, but will future action come of it? It's kind of going to be dependent on the cemetery districts and whether they want to apply for a detachment process.
Could you remind me the other areas where we've discovered that overlapping? Is it water?
Yeah, so when we prepared our water wastewater service review plan, we had a number of overlapping between Montecito and the city of Santa Barbara. Most notably, I would say, is the most areas that were overlapping. The whole South State Street area up into Westmont College. There's a lot of overlap between those two agencies, and that was identified in the report. And the district, water district of Montecito has been looking at that and contemplating whether they want to adjust their boundaries accordingly to that. And I've been in conversations with them. But I think we're holding off on to formalizing any application until more work is done about consolidation effort.
Thank you. Any questions from other commissioners?
Yes, Commissioner Nelson, I believe, has a comment on Zoom.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Stark. To piggyback on the conversation about overlapping districts, one of the concerns that I have is that, many of these districts are pre-Prop 13 districts, so they actually receive a portion of property taxes. So I'm just kind of curious in the overlapping areas, how is that distributed and resolved?
Commissioner Nelson, to the chair, that's actually a good question. So most of these areas are assigned what's called a tax rate area, TRA number, and that's done through the county system and ultimately, sent up to the state for what tax area they are. And that is how the property tax is exchanged and divvied up. So we'd have to essentially go back to some county departments and determine the tax rate area for these overlap boundaries and determine which portion these cemeteries receive of the property tax.
Yeah, I think it's a good question and something we should inquire about because, they may be paying into one cemetery district but not the other. Or maybe paying into both, so maybe some double taxation going on. And that might be one of the reasons to resolve that as a problem if that's in the future. My other question for Mr. Prather would be, you mentioned that there are some of our districts that are so small that they're not able to do a website for a level of transparency. I guess my first question is which ones are those? And then the second portion would be, if that basic level of transparency is not available to them, I have serious concern about their ongoing fiscal health. And what do we do as an organization as we look at those and see whether there needs to be, some kind of succession for those if they're not able to handle the fiscal responsibilities of running a district.
Commissioner Nelson, to the chair, those two agencies have been identified in the service review. For those two cemetery districts, it's the Los Alamos Cemetery District and the Oak Hill Cemetery District.
Again, is there any type of fiscal stress test that we're providing here? I mean, it concerns me about both Los Alamos and Oak Hill, and I know more intimately about Los Alamos and the lack of resources that they have to maintain their cemetery. And so I just don't know if there's one of these the opportunities for us to start having conversations about what does the future look like for those districts if they're not able to satisfy their mission.
Commissioner Nelson, to the chair. Yeah, both of those were identified in the report of the fiscal constraints and the lack of revenue from property tax and or fees. And so they've been identified and flagged as a concern to watch and follow. However, we also identified that their level of service is relatively low at the moment, and it has been over a number of the past 5 to 10 years. There's not a whole lot of internments that are occurring, and they do have some capacity issues in some of those cemetery districts. All of that has been identified. Where we stopped short was suggesting that new governance structures needed to occur. Again, in sticking with our first round of discussions, we primarily wanted to get a good baseline of information, understand where they are at before we embark on a significant governance shift.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Are there other commissioners that have questions? I got a couple.
I have a question up in Santa Maria.
Yes, Santa Maria. That would
Yeah,
be,
Commissioner Mosby.
yes, Commissioner
Is
Moses.
this a time sensitive document that has to be done in December?
Commissioner Mosby, could you repeat that?
Does this have to be done in December? I think the last time you referenced this, you were talking about the first meeting in 2026.
This document does not have to be done, none of the documents have to be adopted per se, but it is in sticking with our work plan so that we can move on through the next service review, which is a second round of police, fire, EMS services. And so the adoption is primarily to accept this report in December and then to only adopt spheres of influences for the 11 special districts and defer the spheres for the 8 cities.
The reason why I say so is in reviewing this, I noticed a lot of material errors when referencing the community of Lompoc or the city of Lompoc. I also did talk with the CEO of the hospital. They had several as well that they saw in the document. If it was delayed until the January component, then we'd be allowed to see a red line document in December and make decisions going forward.
Commissioner Mosby, through the chair, that is correct. So we're essentially releasing a public draft of this. If there are some additional errors or omissions that those agencies would like to correct, they would submit those in red line version, and depending on the significance of those, it could cause a delay in adoption as a recommendation. But we would still want to come back and inform the commission of that at our December 11th meeting. If their red line changes are deemed adequate and staff recommends those, we'll show those red lines to the commission at the December meeting and accept those into the record as change to the document. So either way, we'll pick up whatever changes that are necessary by the agencies that feel revisions need to be made.
So if I might to clarify this, if I understand what you're saying, the concerns that Commissioner Mosby has identified, which is to wit, there are errors in the City of Lompoc description as well as in the Lompoc Health Agency description, and those agencies want an opportunity to correct them. Can that be accomplished with your original recommendation to bring this back in December?
Commissioner Chair, I believe it can be. So this is the 30-day public review period. They're going to review this document along with the rest of the public, and they're going to suggest where those corrections need to be made.
So if I have this correct, then if we need to, we can bump it a month to make final changes. We're not losing anything. Is that?
That is correct. So at the end of the day, if there are significant changes that warrant a delay in the action, we'll recommend that to the commission. Or if the commission sees the need to delay it, you can delay the decision until some future decision.
Commissioner Kyriakou.
Thank you. I thought I could get past this one without a question, but I guess not. Just a quick process question. My recollection, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this document isn't just simply a creation of LAFCO staff, but it's actually co-created in concert with the different agencies. The different agencies are given an opportunity to comment, to provide additional information to help inform the findings. As we get ready to go out on this review period, I assume this would be presented to City of Goleta staff, City of Lompoc staff, county staff, I mean, special district staff, et cetera. I just want to confirm my understanding. I believe that's correct.
Commissioner Kiriakou, through the chair, that is correct. We worked collaboratively in getting an admin draft approved and sent them iterations as we went through this process. This is now the release of this document. We have notified all of the staffs that have agencies that are in this report, invited them to this meeting, invited them to comment on this document. And we suspect, as in service reviews in the past, we have had comments and changes, and we reflect those changes to the commission before we ask for final adoption.
Okay. Well, I would just applaud the eagle eye of Commissioner Mosby and just say that, we should all be looking at these and making sure our staff are looking at them, and we'll see where we land next month or the month after.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I do have a couple of questions. I think they're pretty straightforward. The first is, am I correct that when this comes back to us, there'll be some sort of CEQA finding? And if there's no development that's proposed or necessitated by any changes, there would be some sort of an exemption. Is that correct?
Chair, the answer is yes. So we have identified through a CEQA document at the end of this service review our analysis on CEQA based on the recommendation that we're making, that there is no further development being associated, that we're reaffirming the spheres, therefore we're using an exemption for that.
Thank you. My next question has to do with the scope of the review for the cities. Does this encompass all the various things that are done by the cities, or is it limited to the sorts of activities that are directly at stake in your service review?
Chair and Commission, so this report limits its scope for the cities. As we've indicated, we prepared 4 other service reviews that specifically focused on those other services: police, fire, water, sewer, transportation, parks, recreation. This is limited to essentially broadband, solid waste, and schools for the most part. There are a few cities that provide some additional services that we've picked up in the service review for their particular profile. So City of Santa Barbara has harbor services. They also do housing mediation. And so we picked those up as part of a few paragraphs in those chapters. The City of Lompoc does electrical service. So we picked up that service for their chapter only.
So just so I can.
But it's a limited scope of their service. It does not include all of the city's mainstay of services. Those are provided in previous chapters.
Got it. It's just if something was not captured in the other chapters or are part of this last review, that it would be included in this review. Is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you. And my next question, which I think is real simple: what happened to the Isla Vista Community Services District? Where does that fit into the scheme of things?
Isla Vista Community Service District is part of this service review because they provide mediation services. So that's solely the focus on them. However, through our conversations with them, they have identified that they no longer provide composting services, for which we picked up in a previous service review that if they wanted to continue that service, they needed to come before LAFCO and activate a latent power. They've now decided to no longer provide that service in its entirety, and that they no longer will be coming forward for activation because it's not a service they want to provide any longer.
I think that answered my question. Not entirely sure. And last, and I don't think it's least, how did we acquire jurisdiction over broadband? My understanding is SBCAG is the lead agency in the alliance. And the alliance includes not only other public agencies, but also some kind of private agencies. And I want to know how we got jurisdiction. And we don't have jurisdiction over SBK, correct? It's a joint powers agency.
Chair and the Commission, we do not have jurisdiction over SBCAG, and we're not claiming jurisdiction over broadband. We're just identifying that as a service that agencies that we do have jurisdiction over, that they provide. And it's one of these other services that the commission has interest in, so we picked it up as a placeholder in which to describe what are those services, what do they look like, where are they at, who's working on them, and so that's generally what our service review entails.
Thank you. So it's not really a classic service review. It's just sort of a notation. It's one of these things that are coming on and could later ripen into some sort of agency service review. Is that?
It could. There are community service districts that do not provide broadband as a power, but under the CSD law, they could come to LAFCO and ask for direct authority to do broadband services. And so we would pick that up. This is another placeholder where if they wanted to do that, in future service reviews, that service would be one of those identified for a community service district per se.
So we would enter the picture.
Then we
There
would
was
enter the
some
picture
agency
because we
over
have
which
an
we had jurisdiction that wanted to go into the broadband business.
That's correct. So we would pick that up.
Thank you. That's it. All the questions I have. Is there a public comment on this item?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
In that case, I would call for a motion. I would think that the
I'll move
motion
it.
would be ordered to move it to the next item, the next meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Hartman seconds.
We have a motion for a second, and if I understand correctly, we have the flexibility to respond to comments that come in that may require a different.
And just to be clear, I'm moving that we set the public hearing for the 11th of December.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Mosby.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is business item number 2. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 2 is to consider a resolution to approve and update the Santa Barbara LAFCO fee schedule and consider a resolution authorizing LAFCO to accept credit cards, debit cards, or electronic funds transfers and to impose certain fees for the use of the credit or debit card or electronic funds transfer not to exceed the cost incurred by LAFCO.
Thank you. Mr. Prater, would you report, please?
Thank you, Chair and Commission. So the Commission directed that staff come back and revise our fee schedule. And we'll put up on the overhead the PDF of what that red line looks like of those fee schedules for your consideration. And along with that, the use of credit card for payment as an option. And so resolutions have been developed for the Commission to consider. Those are included in your attachments. Attachment C is this attachment here, which shows the fee schedule and the revisions that essentially have 3 changes. And those changes are to increase the Public Works deposit fee in the top paragraph from $1,100 to $2,000, as we discussed. And if you scroll down, buried in the little paragraph, stop there, go back up, just below the fee schedule itself, the first line item fee schedule, there's a small paragraph there that talks about staff's hourly rate. And so we're proposing that we change that hourly rate from $175 to $211. And then finally, at the bottom of this page 3, I believe, if you'll scroll down to the bottom, there's a line item note that discusses the approval and use of credit cards and to impose or pass along any fees that may be processed by using those cards. So there's the final red line paragraph. So those are most notably the three changes. The commission asked for clarification on the hourly rate, looking at the various pro rata for staff and its cost. So we broke that down for executive officer alone, or all employees for the commission, in two different line items. And the third one is to include our cost allocation plan, which includes a number of other overheads that we pay into the county for services rendered by the county. So those are the three different variations of what we would include as part of our cost that's associated with an application that may come forward. And we have selected the middle one at $211. That includes the overhead of just your staff, not including the cost allocation plan. So that's the recommendation that we're making. Happy to answer any questions if the commission has any specific questions.
Thank you. Are there commissioner questions as to this? Commissioner Geyer's giving me a look, which indicates he has a question.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a step forward. It's been some time. I've kind of pounded this drum over the years, the last 8 years. Would you agree that the majority of the cost is labor intensive?
Yes.
I will support the recommendation, but I really would like to see a rider in the resolution that allows an annual increase, be it the CPI or whatever, equal to what staff employee increase is. And I think that doing that, we certainly wouldn't have 8 years in between an increase, and it would just be a more efficient way.
Thank you. I'd like to ask our council, can we do that?
Vice Chair Stark and Commissioner Geyer and the commission. The costs have to be the actual cost of providing the services. So you could have an increase annually, but it has to be based on what the actual costs are for staff time to provide those services. So I would be cautionary about having just a general CPI increase.
Thank you. We still have the ability, if I understand it, each year, if our costs in fact go up, to amend the resolution to reflect the actual cost. Is that correct?
Chair, yes. And to the rest of the commission, as I indicated when we last considered this item as to whether to bring it forward as for a regular item, that most other LAFCOs, if they're going to do a CPI, typically do the CPI on staff time. So if your staff gets increases, that inherently increases our overhead costs or our department costs, and that you could attach a CPI to that as an hourly rate, and then we would bill out on that hourly rate with a built-in CPI, and that's traditionally the way it's dealt with, and that way it's tied directly to our time. And as we use the deposit for that overall cost, if it exceeds that, then we're now billing for direct time and cost. And that's how we kind of keep ourselves in line with what our legal counsel has recommended, that our actual fee structure kind of stays the same, and we're just billing towards that time. And the CPI is really built on the hourly rate. If the commission wanted to do that, we'd have to amend this resolution to include that. We'd have add another line item to include a CPI increase automatically.
I think I understood that. I'm not sure. So is the resolution that you have put before us, does that have that feature in it? Or as presently drafted, we have to go every year?
Yeah, currently it does not have the built-in CPI built into it. So if we wanted to make future changes that included a CPI increase, any given year I'd have to come back to the commission and ask for those changes.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Couldn't we just pass a resolution with that stipulation or that change?
And yes, and I'm suggesting if the commission agrees with that, we would need to amend this particular resolution that's before you to include some additional language about an automatic CPI and what that automatic CPI rate would be.
That would be my recommendation.
I'll second that motion.
Assuming we're going to have a motion in a minute, Supervisor, or Commissioner Kiriaka.
I now have a clarifying question. I just want to make sure we're not decoupling this too far from our modes of operation. So if we do what Commissioner Geyer is recommending, it wouldn't just be simply automatic. It would come to us every year as a proposed change, and we would adopt it, or would there would be no more public process and this would just automatically happen? The reason I'm asking the question is we don't know from year to year what we're going to recommend for staff adjustments to pay and other things, and I just don't want to get too far ahead of something and then you miss a step and suddenly you're now out of balance between what you're charging versus what you're supposed to charge, and then that creates exposure. I kind of want to see if we could accomplish what he wants to accomplish, but with like a safety built in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, Commissioner Kiriakou through the chair. My understanding is the desire would be automatic. So every year, whatever CPI you'd ask in the resolution, then our rate would change every year based on that.
Then I wonder if there would be a room for a friendly amendment that we just slightly adjust the recommendation to that every year staff would bring us an updated fee schedule that reflects CPI for the positions, and then we can just vote on it rather than us having to think whether or not we want to bring a fee schedule change. So let's make it an automatic thing. The fee schedule comes up every year with the recommendation for the CPI adjustment to staff cost, and then we can just vote on it. I just want to avoid a situation where we kind of get on autopilot and someone misses it, and then we're out of balance. That's my only concern.
Yeah, that's what's been happening, only in the reverse. And I think if you have the rider in there, there's a couple of areas. One of them is during budgetary time, you can see what the fee schedule is because that's part of working with a budget. But over the years, that's what's happened is the fee schedule doesn't reflect what we're paying out in salaries. And it should, because in my opinion, 90% plus of the costs for fees is labor intensive. So all I'm trying to do is accomplish not waiting 8 years to get the increase. Because otherwise what you're winding up doing is LAFCO membership is subsidizing applications.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just trying to make sure we do this in a way that is both expeditious but prudent.
Thank you. May I ask, are there any public comments on this?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Read the motion back. Just
Well, I would suggest this is the appropriate time, although I recognize Commissioner Sevis who wants to say something. This might be the appropriate time to make a motion.
I'm kind of thinking this should come back annually because you've got the credit card fees now, and those are going to change. And it needs to be on the website as to what the charges are going to be, and those fluctuate. So, I mean, and it ties into our budget also. So I understand what Commissioner Geyer is saying as far as we've never addressed the true cost, especially with CPI increases. But if we have a policy to do it every year with our budget to understand what the cost increases are, if any, and what the fees are going to be.
Thank you. I was under the impression that with respect to credit card fees, if whatever it costs effect of the CPI on on the staff cost. That's not how your resolution is drafted. Is that basically right?
Chair and Commission, that is correct. So the intent with the credit card is we would subscribe using our web host provider who has access to the Stripe company, and they will charge a percentage of cost. And that percentage is what's going to be passed on to anybody that would want to use that as their payment method. Otherwise, they can always default to a physical check that they can hand off. What I would add, that now that staff has heard some of the conversation, that whoever makes the motion, if you wanted to include amending for a CPI, that we request that we continue the item till next month so that staff can properly draft a resolution that includes that language clear for the commission.
Okay,
I've got a comment up here.
What? Was that Commissioner Mosby?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Mosby, then Commissioner Guyer.
So the complication arises that it's not only based on a CPI, but also the demand for service. If service goes down to, on the extreme side, say 20% capacity, without a doubt, the CPI is not going to cover it because the cost of service goes up. But if you're operating at 100% capacity, then the CPI would come to play to keep up with an inflationary component. Assuming that we're operating at 60 or 7% capacity currently, and you still have, if I remember correctly, in the last budget numbers we saw, that your income does exceed expenses. You're not supposed to operate at a profit, but the variable is the demand for the service. So that's why the CPI doesn't directly work on here in relationship. If you run 110% of service, your CPI would end up being more than cost of service. If that makes any sense.
no.
It sort of makes sense.
And that's why, mathematically, if I had a chalkboard, I could break it out a little easier, but it's about, let's say, worst case scenario, you have one applicant all month. Without a doubt, the fees being charged are not going to be cover the cost of service. If you have 100 applicants that month, without a doubt, the guys are going to be swamped, and it's going to be, the money generated would be potentially more than cost of service. To look at it at the extreme side. And that's why it gets complicated with the CPI, and you guys should be looking at it annually and really looking at the budgetary component of where the revenues are more than expenses.
Thank you. Commissioner Guyer.
Okay, well, I'd like to reply to that. It is cost of service, and it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't matter the demand. It's the application and the cost of the individuals, the employees, to process it. So I stand by my motion, but also I think Commissioner Acevi's comment, there is two resolutions. So it is two separate issues. You could deal with a credit card thing for that resolution, and I would recommend that we adopt the resolutions separately. So my motion pertains just to the fee schedule.
Thank you. Would you care to repeat your motion for the fee schedule and see if we can either get this done today or continue it to next week, one or the other, or next month?
Want me to repeat it or
Yes,
just
I'd like you to
read it back?
Yes, or I think it doesn't matter who reads it back, but I'd like the motion repeated.
I'd rather have it read back. That way I want to make sure that they got it. I'll repeat it.
Madam Clerk, do you have the motion?
Okay, my motion is to adopt the resolution and include, with the amendment, that it includes an automatic inflation rider equal to staff, employees, CPI increase.
Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Suppose we can call the roll. Before we call the roll, I would like to inquire, Does the motion as phrased require staff to come back with the correct language or the appropriate language?
The motion and second does not include staff coming back. Yeah, the way the motion and second is right now, we would include a line item that includes an automatic inflation to include a CPI with inflation.
Yeah, it doesn't need to come back.
Doesn't need to come back.
You have the information that you need
We'll
to
add
do-
that to this resolution, and that'll be the final resolution if approved.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Mosby.
No.
Motion passes 1 nay.
Thank you. The motion passes. The next item is business item number 3. Will the clerk please read that item into the record?
Chair, if we may.
Chair?
That motion was for only the first resolution.
We have another
There's a
part
second
of this
resolution.
motion. I'm sorry. The next part would be the pass-through of the fees that are charged by credit card companies for paying off LAFCO matters. Is that correct?
Yes.
I would ask if there's a motion,
So moved. Carry on.
Second.
and that's the motion as drafted, as presented. Motion and a second. Is there any comments from the commission? Guess we should ask for public comment?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, there is no request to speak on this item.
Any discussion on the motion from the commission? Yes.
Chair Stark and members of the commission, can we just get clarification on the exact wording of your second motion in regards to the credit card?
I didn't make a motion. My understanding, it was the motion, the resolution on the credit cards as presented by staff in the staff report.
Yes. Okay.
Is that, I think I've got
Thank
that
you.
right.
That clarifies.
Any discussion on the motion? Newly clarified motion. Would you, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Mosby.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That brings us to business item number 3. Would the clerk please read that item into the record?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 3 is to consider the execution of a contract with Trico Reprographics to provide scanning, digitizing, and file processing of LAFCO documents for long-term access in an amount not to exceed $7,000.
Thank you. Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Chair. So staff has brought back a contract not to exceed $7,000 with Tri-County Reprographics to at least start the document management work that the commission has recently adopted policies to do. So we wanted to get them under contract and maybe use some of the holiday time, downtime, to be able to get some of that work started. We don't intend that this will include all of the work, but it'll get us started in the process. And if any additional work is required beyond the $7,000 being requested, we'd come back to the commission for an extension of that contract. So that contract is found in attachment A, and we're requesting that you authorize execution of that contract. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Guyer?
Was this item a 25-26 budgeted item, line item?
Commissioner Guyer, through the chair, this was not a budgeted line item, but we feel that there's additional funding available through our professional services line item that would cover this cost.
Okay, so there's enough cushion in that line item to cover it, and we don't have to dip into the reserves for it?
That's correct. So essentially what we did in adopting the budget is we increased that line item to $70,000 this year. That was largely to cover the extra help position for the clerk role, anticipating that they would start July 1. We didn't start that position until September 15th. So there's some additional cushion built into that.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner
Can you
Hartman?
remind me which documents are starting?
That's a good question. Today, after the meeting, the three of us are going to go back to the office and try to prioritize that. But I'll lay out my plan for the commission, which is I think we're going to start with the application files and the City of Goleta Incorporation documents as sort of phase one of this. If we can go into second phase, it would likely take in city and special district files that include documents related to that. And what will not be likely in this contract are all the other miscellaneous agenda packets that are in there, additional resources that's noted in the various files. A lot of the audit, financing, payroll documents, all of that's going to be deferred until likely an extension of the contract. So it's focusing on projects that we mostly hear applicants want to see old files to, and then City of Goleta Incorporation, which is a rather large drawer of it by itself, and then individual agency files that may be on record.
And now we get everything digitized, is that correct?
Yeah, so this is going to digitize all of that OCR document so that it's a searchable, findable document in case we wanted to do a word search. I pull up that document.
And so the documents that, I guess I'm trying to get a sense of, from here forward, do the documents fit within that framework? Or do we need to get periodic updates to make sure the documents are in the right folder and easily findable?
Findable, yeah. So they're going to follow the format of which we store and file documents under agencies, depending on type of action that's taken. And so it'll fall within that. So we'll be able to easily find those documents. We have that structure now. We're just going to be able to amend the file storage to include these added documents that are only in paper form now. Everything since November 2020, when you hired me, has all been digitized. So we're already digitizing everything post-2020. Everything's a digital record already. So we just need to go back and get the old files and bring them up to par with what we're currently doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions or comments from commissioners?
Just a quick clarifying question. This is the Goleta Now circa late 90s, early 2000 Goleta Incorporation attempt documents, nothing from prior attempts, because there were several attempts prior.
I believe most of those are from the 2002 actual incorporation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any public comment on this?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the contract as proposed.
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second?
Hartman seconds.
Motion and a second. Any comments or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Carriaco,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Commissioner Mosby.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That concludes our business items. We're on to the information item. The next item is information item number 1. Madam Clerk, would you please read that item into the record?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, information item number 1 is to receive and file a report on pending commissioner elections and appointments.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Prater.
Mr. Chair and Commission. So to give the Commission an update, we do have some pending vacancy seats that will be coming due. One has to do with the special district seat, unfortunately, that we just appointed Commissioner Johnson to. That seat is now due up for its 4-year cycle. And so we've re-noticed for that position, and we're now accepting nominations for that position up until January 2nd. At the close of that, depending on the names that we receive, we'll follow up through either an election period or if it's the sole nominee, then that individual will capture the seat automatically. We have 2 county seats that are also coming due. Commissioner Nelson and Commissioner Lee's seat are set to expire in March 2026 as well. But in typical fashion, the Board of Supervisors, they'll reappoint their members every year that sit on LAFCO, and so they'll be holding in January appointment seats, and LAFCO will be one of those seats, and they'll have representation to fill those 2 county seats. And again, those are for recycling over for 4-year terms onto LAFCO. However, the board appoints every year, so any given year the board can select who they want as their representative on LAFCO. We just keep a tally of what that 4-year cycle looks like for us. So with that, that's the update on upcoming elections and appointments for members to sit on LAFCO. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. Any commissioners have anything to say about this? Thank you. It says receive and file, no motion necessary, if I understand correctly. The next item is information item 2, number 2. Madam Clerk, would you please read that into the record?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, information item number 2 is to receive and file a report on pending Santa Barbara LAFCO applications.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Prater.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Commission. So we do have a very brief PowerPoint, as you'll indicate. We only really have one pending application that's active, and that's the Richards Ranch application. And so the update here is to inform the Commission they are still pending a property tax exchange agreement. As I understand, they extended the mediation period up until October 31st. The report on that is that they did not succeed and that they will now be entering arbitration as the process. And so we're still waiting for some tax exchange agreement to be approved before we move forward with formal action on any applications. We anticipated a couple other applications to come in by now, but they've been delayed for some reason. So we've got to be determined. There are more applications that will be coming. And we'll keep the Commission informed of those applications once they arrive. So that's our conclusion of our single application that we're processing today. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
I want to clarify my understanding. My understanding is that with respect to a proposed annexation, if there is no property tax agreement we do not have, we, LAFCO, do not have jurisdiction over to act in the matter. Is my understanding correct?
That is correct. LAFCO only initiates the start of the property tax exchange negotiation process. We have no part in the negotiations itself.
Thanks. And that's in the Revenue and Tax Code, is it not?
Correct.
Thank you. Do we have any commissioner questions or comments on this? Pretty self-explanatory, I think. Is there any public comment?
Vice Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. And again, this is a receive and file information item, so there's no motion necessary. And that brings us to commissioner announcements. That was information item number 2, was it not? Yep. I'm old, but I can count till 2. Next item is commissioner announcements. Do we have any commissioner announcements or requests for future agenda items?
Vice
Yes.
Chair Stark and members of the commission, we do have Mr. Stoltley online on Zoom who would like to speak under the item.
Oh, okay. Well, now's his chance.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, I think.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair Stark and members of the Commission, Mr. Prater. My name is Michael Stolte, Managing Member of Richards Ranch, applicant for Key Site 26, annexation of the City of Santa Maria. I'm here to respectfully request that the Richards Ranch annexation update be continued to December 11th meeting in Santa Maria. We believe a short delay will allow for a more informed and constructive discussion about this item. Earlier today, we submitted a letter to the commission. Unfortunately, it was sent late. In that letter, it includes our concerns regarding timeline issues of Revenue and Taxation Code 99 and the process, as well as several requests by the county that appear outside of the normal scope of tax exchange negotiations. Our intent is not adversarial. We simply want to ensure transparency and completeness of the record. We recognize that the commission and staff has not yet had time to review the letter and materials in detail. Continuing the item gives everyone the opportunity to review and evaluate the items carefully. I think our concern is that the way this is being processed sets precedents for future city and county tax exchanges in Santa Barbara County. A short delay helps ensure any future actions reflect state law and legislative intent, LAFCO's role in orderly and efficient growth, and fair and transparent coordination between agencies. Taking the time to review the letter as well as the items that we have provided to LAFCO, we believe will allow for discussion as well as for LAFCO to discuss any potential precedent-setting actions that are taking place currently. Again, we are requesting that we have time for LAFCO Commission to review that letter in detail and that we be provided an opportunity to speak on it at the next LAFCO hearing. Thank you.
Them, but I question what jurisdiction we have over this particular process. Do we have any? Do we as a LAFCO have the ability to change the process that the county and whoever the petitioner would be have to follow under the Revenue and Tax Code? I'm not questioning, that we might want to get a status report. I just want to question what our jurisdiction is to do anything about it.
Yeah, Commissioner Chair.
Commissioner Guyer had his hand up.
Yeah, that was the reason that I asked to have a presentation, an update on the tax exchange, because I've been involved with one of those before when I was on the cemetery district, and it didn't go really well. So I would like to know a little bit more about questions exactly like what you have.
Mr. Prater, you have any advice as to how to handle this?
Well, I'll tap into our handbook and our policies. As Chair pointed out, LAFCO doesn't have any formal role in that exchange process. There is a pending future agenda item for a presentation by the county regarding a tax exchange process. That's still a pending item to come forward to the commission in the future at some point when the timing is right. It hasn't been right as of most recently. But what I will note to the commission under your policies, when an item is requested by the member of the public to have something held on your agenda, under future agenda items, a commissioner has to raise that as something they want to be added, and you need to get a majority vote to add it to a future agenda item. The timing in which that comes forward and placed on your agenda is left to the discretion of the executive officer, and I work closely with legal counsel and our chair. So that doesn't necessarily mean you get to say, bring it back in December, although if you tell me to bring it back in December, most likely I'm going to try and bring it back in December. But we also have a number of other items that we're juggling, and I try to balance our agendas so that we don't have to sit here for 5 hours to hold a LAFCO meeting. We try to balance it so that we're comfortably within our 2-hour journal time slot of activities and actions that we want to take.
Do you have any suggestions for a motion that might be appropriate so that we can have an appropriate discussion to hear whatever questions there are, get a report on what the limits of our jurisdiction are?
Yeah, so I think based on what I heard, the recommendation is that the item be brought back for a status update in the future. And so if a commissioner wants to bring that back as a future agenda item and get 4 votes, we'll place it as item number C under the commissioner announcements and request for future agenda items when we get to that item.
I think we're at that item.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at commissioner announcements.
Well, we moved back. We did move back to go to informational item 2 because there was a late hand raise. So we went back to that item.
I got it. So we're on the item about information, item number 2 at the moment, and you're suggesting we need a separate motion.
We'll need a
to
separate.
place that on the agenda either now or when we get to the next agenda item.
Yes, not necessarily a motion for future agenda items. The policy is that you get concurrence by at least 4. So,
Thank you. And would that embrace whatever information is germane is contained in Mr. Stolte's letter, which he belatedly filed?
yeah, we'll get a copy of that. We'll distribute that to the commission shortly after this meeting, and so you'll have it well in advance. Whether the item is brought back in December or January, as we indicated, they are in arbitration as a process. That's going to take some time to get through that process, so I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of report out from staff's perspective, other than you'll have the information from Mr. Stolte that was submitted today. But we'll disseminate that shortly after this meeting once we get into our emails.
Thank you. And we need a motion for this?
You do not need a motion. You need a commissioner to acknowledge that they want a future agenda item to consider a status update on Richards Ranch. And then I need 4 concurrences from the commission.
I would suggest that Commissioner Guyer has said that he wants some of a status update. Would that be a fair characterization?
I don't see us making a motion off of this. It's not an agendized item for a motion.
No, I think what our
you have
executive
another
director has said is if there is an indication, whether it's a motion or not, if there's an indication that you would like the status report, then it goes to the next phase, which is to poll the commission and ascertain whether a majority of the commission is in favor of the status report that's been requested. Is that right?
That is correct. And I'll note that you have a commissioner with their hand raised
Yes, Commissioner Nelson has his hand raised.
Chair Stark?
Yes, Commissioner Nelson.
Yeah, thank you. If you're looking for a recommendation on bringing this back for an informational item in the future, I would concur with that. So I'd add that to Commissioner Geyer's wanting to get some more information on what the purview of LAFCO is in the tax exchange process and what jurisdiction we have in that. So I'd be happy to hear that. My understanding is that the city and the county have extended the arbitration process through April at this point. And so I don't think it's necessarily urgent that it comes back to us in December. So I would maybe defer back to the executive director on a more appropriate time, maybe on a lighter agenda for us between now and April, if that's would be helpful to the rest of the commission.
I would leave it to my sense is I'd leave it to the discretion of the executive directors when it's ripe to bring it back. And I assume you can be in contact with whoever you need to be in contact with to be able to gauge that timing. When's it going to be useful to us? I don't think we need to have a discussion that it doesn't advance things.
Yeah, what I'm sensing is a frustration on the applicant's part. And I feel that the applicant is reaching out to LAFCO for direction, and we're really not involved in that process. And so that was originally a couple of months ago when I brought up the idea to have somebody from give us a report on the simple process of it, so that LAFCO commissioners have a clear understanding of what our involvement is and when our involvement is. So, I mean, for me, I'd just like to know that, and I think it would clear up the applicant's questions.
Thank you. I think that sounds pretty reasonable to me.
Chair Stark, so essentially I think I've got through Commissioner Nelson's position that a future agenda item would be likely for Richards Ranch and its status. Certainly, I heard from you and indicating that you're comfortable with that, Commissioner Geyer. So I think a quick straw poll of the other commissioners, and we'll indicate that I see another hand raised. So that's 4. That's enough for me to place that as item C on our future agenda items to give a report back on status update of Richards Ranch in the future.
Thank you. But first, Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, hi. I have something for future agenda. Is that something that I could report?
Yes, if we're done with that, then something else. Yes, that would be in order, I believe.
Yes, I talked to our executive officer about this, and I'd like to see if we could have an update on possibly the addition of the CEQA exception, the new law. And I think there's something about that I would like to see how that works with our LAFCO and clarification. So if that's something that could be done. And then also, I think there also was another commissioner that mentioned about the updates on the Brown Act, and I don't know if that's been.
It's on today's agenda, I think.
Okay, yeah, okay.
The Brown Act's on today's agenda, and
Nope.
the CEQA would be a separate matter, whether there are any changes. There have been a bunch of changes to CEQA. The question is whether any of them affect LAFCO.
Exactly.
It seems like a reasonable thing that we should know. Commissioner Aceves.
Yeah, the future agenda items have been sitting on our report now for a couple of months. And the one dealing with the regarding the tax exchange process and codes, I mean, that we've asked for that previously. And that is separate from the Richards Ranch issue. Richards Ranch has its own process, which we may not be involved in, but I think so the commission understands the process. That was a request made months ago, and I think that should be agendized sooner than later because we don't know what our role is on Richards Ranch. with regards to the tax exchange. We may not have one, but I think if the county came in and gave us a report, it'd be clear for the commission to understand what our role is as this issue comes up, Richard Ranch comes up, or other issues come up. And regards to the Brown Act, that's been sitting on here also as a request for a future agenda item, so I don't know what the holdup is on that.
Well, the Brown Act is on our agenda today.
No, it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, it is. It's just not in the printed staff or in
We have a
the,
report on that today.
We're not having a report on that, but it is on the agenda to talk about it further if you wanted to. It is on the agenda, but you're not getting a staff presentation until January, as indicated by the commission. That's when you wanted to see it.
It's on the agenda as a future agenda item.
Right.
But it's not on the agenda discussed today.
It's not an action item.
It's not an action item.
it's.
Oh, it's on as a placeholder?
Yes.
It's on.
I thought we were going to hear it today.
That's what I was mistaken. I tell you, I assumed we was going to get a report and we didn't need to. Yes, we don't have any control about whether the Brown Act says. It says what it says, and I think there's some changes that go into effect on January 1st, and I think it's in our interest that we know what they are and whether they apply to us.
That was the request, is to bring it back to the commission.
But if we've already done it, then we don't need to do it twice, I would think. And I would suggest we probably ought to do it sooner the better. Yes, Commissioner Guyer.
I'm getting a tad bit confused here. I agree that, I asked for this taxation exchange, I'm going to say 3 months ago. Could be right, but pretty close to it. And I think what we're debating here, borderline, is when a commissioner asks for a future agenda item, it may not come back the next month. It may not come back in 2 months. Probably get an update about it, but I don't think it should hang in limbo. And I think before it goes to a litmus test with the commission itself as to whether the commission wants it on a future agenda as an action item, I would feel that the executive officer should talk to the commissioner that requested it and give some kind of an explanation, because at this point, I don't believe we have a policy that covers agenda items, requests, but I guess we certainly could have that in some future plan. But I feel that if a commissioner requests something in a timely manner, it should appear on the action agenda, or at least some type of an explanation be given.
Mr. Hartman.
I think we heard earlier, I have a procedural question. A commissioner can request, but then we need 4 to say go ahead. And so this list that we have here, is this purely informational, or do we need 4 people to say, yes, we want you to go forward? And then I think the bylaws that you referred to said that it's within your discretion, given agenda management, when it comes back, or working with others who, what's their schedule if they're outside person making a presentation.
Well, the last report that I recall, which I get a little faded sometimes, but the last thing I remember on this item was you had contacted the people to give a presentation, and they wanted to wait until, I believe it was the first of the year.
Chair and the commission, if you allow me to elaborate on all of that and maybe do some cleanup as well. You are correct. So the items that are placed on this future agenda item list has already received concurrence by 4 at a minimum. I will note the item A, which is a presentation by the county regarding the tax exchange process, has been on for several months. We indicated that initially they wanted to wait on giving that presentation, The most recent update is that the county has declined to give a presentation. So we're at a bit of a limbo with the county. I think they're concerned about giving a presentation in light of the challenge they're seeing with Richards Ranch as a actual project, having some conflicts for them. And so they've declined to give that presentation. Now, if the commission wants to reword that future agenda item to have LAFCO staff and county council give a presentation, we'll do our best to give you our version of what we think LAFCO's role is. And we can reword that and get concurrence by 4. So hopefully that updates you on the county giving a presentation on the property tax exchange. They have declined. So it's not anticipated coming in January or any other time. I'll continue to request that they provide that. I think that request will likely have to come post Richards Ranch decision of whatever comes about on that for the county before they feel comfortable coming forward. So if the commission wants to bear more patience, which you've already expressed a lot of impatience already, it has been on for several months. And we apologize for not being able to get the county to want to present to you, but I think they're in a tricky spot to be able to give that presentation. Next, I want to address Commissioner Johnson's request for an update on the CEQA exemption and the new law that went into effect. I need 4 members to concur. At least raise your hand real quickly. I think we'll probably have that. That looks like we can likely tie that into the Brown Act item as well. We'll have legal counsel give us an update on both those items. That was scheduled to occur by January, so we gave staff some time to be able to prepare that. It is on the agenda as a future agenda item. No presentations, no actions, no real discussions other than to elaborate on what is expected out of that presentation when it comes as an agenda item. So we do need concurrence on the CEQA exemption status, and then based on my indication that the county has declined, you may want to revise that to have staff and legal counsel give a presentation on the property tax exchange process.
Okay, so I think I understand that. It's on the agenda, but you didn't anticipate we were going to discuss it. Is that's so far? So the thing that we asked for from the county, they declined to do. Is that right? So now you're suggesting instead of that, so we can at least have some insight into the overall statutory process, not directed towards the particular pending matter, which has got various complications, you would propose that to give us the maximum information that our staff and council give that basic presentation at some point. Is that right?
Correct.
And for the commissioners that wanted the briefing, does that satisfy?
Yeah, I never requested anything to get involved with the applicant and the county over the tax. I just merely wanted to have a better understanding. And I believe at the time that I requested that, several commissioners, yourself included, voiced an opinion that yes, that would be a good idea. I think it benefits the commission to have an understanding, not an understanding of this particular applicant, an application, but an overall understanding. And it, hey, I'd be happy if the county doesn't want to come and provide that, that's fine. We have counsel that could give us a flow sheet or something, just something that could help each one of us come up with some better questions or a better understanding if we're asked a question.
Thanks. And so we got that cleared up at this point, do we?
We have a question.
Yes.
I have a comment to briefly come to Mr. Prater's defense on the Brown Act issue. When this commission met last month, the legislation in question, SB 707, hadn't even been signed yet. So I think we ought to extend him a little bit of grace to be able to come back to us with a thoughtful report. I thought perhaps based on the way it was agendized, we were going to get that thoughtful report today, but I think it's more than reasonable to expect it to come in December or even early January, since there needs to be some time to digest, to consult with attorneys and make sure that we have a full understanding before we get briefed. I appreciate there's been interest for some time in getting an update on the Brown Act, but major changes just were signed last month, and I think we need to extend a little bit of grace.
Commissioner Sevas.
Getting back to the tax exchange, I think it's a great solution. My question is, when can it come back to us?
And I would ask Mr. Prater and our counsel, if you're going to give the report, how much time do you need to bring it back to us?
Well, what I'll indicate to the commission is that December is already filling up, so likely January would be an appropriate time to come back, if you're amenable to January.
And I'm going to lump together Brown Act changes and CEQA changes. There's a couple of statutes, they amend both of us. They may or may not apply to us, or change how we do business. That would be the same response to that, as you would probably need at least until January to do a good job. There's no point in doing this if you don't do a good job. You don't want to miss anything, I think. Do we need any further guidance on that? Do we need four votes to say that we want to hear about the Brown Act and
I think I've got more than
CEQA?
4 head nods to bring all of those items back.
So we're good.
There's one more question.
Commissioner Guyer?
Comment.
Okay, are we on 1B now?
I think we are both on 1A and 1B. I think we've dispatched 1A.
I do too.
And our staff has sufficient guidance.
So if we're on 1B, I have a comment.
Okay.
I have a
1B.
question and a comment. Is SB LAFCO a member of CSDA?
Yes.
Well, I just went through this the other day. On the 11th of I believe it's the 11th of December, CSDA is having I think it's a 4-hour class on these new Brown Act updates. And if you're a member, it's free. If you're not, it costs quite a bit. And I found out in the first 3 days, they had over 500 people signed up for it. So, and they expanded the capacity to be able to accommodate more people. So that could be a possibility too. It's a very intensive class.
Well,
to address those changes in bills, we're going to work closely with legal counsel and likely tag team our presentation for those items. So thank you for the note that CSDA will be covering much of that material. December 11th, we'll be in a hearing, so I doubt I'll be able to attend the session, but as a member, they always have playback video that we have access to, and we can certainly look forward to that 4-hour session, or not look forward to it, but at least watch it.
I wouldn't think it would. You'd get a couple of naps in the 4 hours that it takes to explain the changes to the Brown Act. My impression is, I took a look at the changes a little bit, is that the complicatedness of the deal depends a lot on how modern your remote testimony provisions are. If you comply with them, then you don't have any problem, but if you have to change what you're doing, then you pretty much have to know where you fit into the scheme, and it gets messy. But it could be substantially more complicated than that, but I don't think it really is.
I think the nice thing is with those webinar classes, though, is you get a PowerPoint at the end of it to keep, which is good, helpful reference. Fair enough. Are we good on this?
There's one lingering thing about commissioner and staff announcements, which I'd bring up. Is this the appropriate point for anybody who attended the Cal LAFCO conference to comment on it, on the Cal LAFCO conference?
This is the appropriate time for
Would it be appropriate for you to start off?
that was going to be
Summarize what the results
was
are?
going to be my executive officer comments if by chance the commissioners that attended let that slip by. I wasn't going to let you get out of remembering your time in San Diego. So we had a good turnout. We sent 8 members of our LAFCO, 3 staff, 5 commissioners, to the conference held in San Diego. It was well received as a conference. It was well attended. As you know, there's been, I think, 7 LAFCOs that have withdrawn their membership out of Cal LAFCO in total, not including those. All but 8 of the actual members showed to the board meeting and voted on the bylaws, which were passed unanimously. So 8 LAFCOs, mostly out of the Northern California sector, did not attend all the way down in San Diego. But those bylaws were passed. All of the changes were passed all unanimously. And of the 7 LAFCOs that have withdrawn their membership, all but 2 provided at least some representatives to that. So we still had a very good turnout. I think it was over 250 members showed up to the sessions. We had 2 speakers on our commission that were on the panel. We opened the show and we closed the show, and I think both those items were well received. Commissioner Stark was on a LAFCO 101 session, which got converted into kind of a game show, pyramid-style session, and which was well received. I think there was a lot of good energy, a lot of excitement about that format. So that's likely to be brought back in some form or fashion. It was a bit unfair in that a lot of questions about the act that you had to answer pitted executive officers against commissioners, and most notably the executive officers usually won out on many of those sessions because that's, we live and breathe this stuff every day. But I think the commissioners held their own. They did well. Ultimately, it was the executive officer out of Butte County that won the pyramid scheme, and whatever token that went with that, they were handing out gift cards of some sort of nature. And then Commissioner Carriaco rounded out all of this on a Friday with an intriguing session on ag and open space and housing and how those conflicts are being dealt with, which is exactly in our current state of concern for our commission. So it was timely to have that conversation. We got a perspective throughout the state and other LAFCOs that are dealing with that in ways in which they've addressed it, and maybe tips and tricks on how some LAFCOs can deal with that. So all that was well attended. We had a great guest speaker. It was a Navy captain from the nuclear submarine. He took on one of the worst submarines, turned that whole crew and ship around, and ultimately spearheaded not 1 but 10 new captains that came under his watch. So he talked about leadership and what it takes to be effective leaders, which was timely again for Cal LAFCO and it's turning the ship around for its membership. So it was all well-attended stuff, and I'll leave it to the individual commissioners to express what they got out of the conference individually.
I'd like to add that. I think Commissioner Shane and also Commissioner James did an excellent job as far as their presentation. So thank you for that. Also, too, I want to share that I took the train down to San Diego with Mike, and it went faster than I expected. I mean, it was almost 6 hours, but I felt like it was 3. I mean, we had a lot to talk about and kind of update, so it was well worth it. So it was a very important conference. So I'm glad that we all went, the people that went. So thank you.
Commissioner Kiriakou.
I'll try and be very brief. I enjoyed the 101 session with Mr. Stark and others, and the great job that they did. I'll note that when they had the presentation slide introducing the speakers, you had a very nice headshot of two speakers, and then for Mr. Stark, of course, it was him gesticulating with hands in motion because he's a man of action and a very, very passionate defender of LAFCO. So I thought that was very telling. It really captured his essence. And it was a great conference. It was great to get to know, Mike and the staff better, and to talk to some of the commissioners, some of whom I've known for a while and some of whom I haven't known quite as long. And then I really enjoyed the opportunity to speak on from the farm to the porch, to the front porch presentation on balancing ag and affordable housing. There was a lot of interest when we talked about solutions to protect agriculture in our community, like Measure G 2012, which Commissioner Hartman played a little role in, and it was a really good session.
Thanks. Commissioner Magana, you got anything to say? You were there.
Yes, I was. I want to just thank for having the opportunity to attend. It was educational for me. Learned a lot. Interesting on the game show. Learned some things. Got to know some of the commissioners a little bit better, some of the staff, and it was a well-attended conference, and I appreciate the opportunity to attend. So if you guys haven't attended, I strongly recommend that you guys attend one of these conferences, because I think it's definitely worth attending.
Thanks.
No, when you're done with that, I have one other announcement.
Fair enough. I'll take my turn. I had sort of a negative note on the conference. I thought it was a good conference. It was good networking. I had a reasonable amount of fun doing LAFCO 101. I mean, we might have got a couple of laughs, which a lifelong dream of putting the laugh in LAFCO, and may or may not have worked. One guy had a tattoo of LAFCO on his arm. It was shocking. Spelled it with two F's, though. The thing that I noticed was not only were there like 7 counties missing, or having left, some big counties, I think San Diego, Los Angeles, a couple of large counties. That's not good. And a lot of time was spent at the convention, at least in our regional point, trying to get these folks back into a lot of energy was trying to get the missing counties back in. And my sense is Cal LAFCO's in a pretty weak position lobbying-wise. It takes money to lobby, and it takes time to lobby. And I think we might have to put some effort into strengthening the regional position, the coastal counties, that we have more, smaller counties that are more of our size and more of our interests. In the event that there's legislation that's in the pike that is adverse to LAFCO, I think we may have to take care of ourselves rather than rely on Cal LAFCO to do it. Just sort of a cautionary note. It's too bad to get the big counties are out of it, because it really does detract from your clout in Sacramento. Not to mention the fact that Napa, which is the closest coastal county to Sacramento, they dropped out too. So we're a little bit at a disadvantage. Other than that, I thought it was pretty good. Food was terrible. You can't say anything good about the claim jumpers. They're just, but you take what you get. In any event, Commissioner Geyer.
Okay, my announcement is more in the form of a request. I'd like to have a copy of the signed fee schedule, the amended resolution. Might be good to distribute it to the entire commission.
Staff will do that. I wanted to note, in adoption of that resolution, those fees are not anticipated to go into effect until January. There was a 60-day delay. So,
Thank you. Anything?
no further comments from the executive officer.
The status of our grant, have you heard more?
Yes, so we were awarded that grant, and I attended 2 days ago the kickoff meeting workshop on what it takes to involve that. And so now is our chance to refine or revise our work plan and budget and put together the details that they want under that agreement. So I'm working on that as we speak with our grant manager. And what I'm going to indicate to them, they'd like to see this all wrapped up and us under agreement by early January. But as I promised and as the commission had requested, that you see that beforehand. So I'm going to reply that back to our grant manager that you want to see that. I hope to place that on our December agenda so that you can look at it in at least a draft state of what that final agreement looks like before we say yes to it all.
Thank you. Does that conclude your comments?
That concludes my comments.
Any further questions?
Well, just a statement. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. Congratulations. It's a big deal for our workload going forward and comes at just the time we can plan for next year.
I noticed that Alameda LAFCO got a SALT grant, SALT grant. How much?
That is correct. Alameda applied for a second round of SALT grant. They've teamed up with their RCD. Because RCDs are not eligible directly, they teamed up through their LAFCO to be a co-applicant, if you will, and they have a memorandum of agreement to exercise that grant work. And they want to build upon the work that they have done, which was largely to look at policies and alignment, do parcel analysis on where available ag is. So they're in a very similar path of work that we're looking at.
Is our local RCD one of the partners you're working with?
They are one of our local partners on our team. Thank
you. Congratulations. Well done. I hope you enjoy all the work that you're going to get. So if there's nothing further, I would declare us adjourned until December 11th, 2025 at 1:00 p.m. in Santa Maria. Thank you very much.